So now I want to explain everything about this skill, what remote sales is, industries, literally so that you can just get full clarity on what this is and how it might apply to you, especially if you're someone who's ambitious like me. Over the last few years, I've basically documented my entire journey, starting from pretty much zero to making six figures and even 10K a month remotely by just locking in on one skill for a period. A skill that I could do pretty much wherever I was, whether I was chilling in my bedroom or studio apartment, whether I was in a cafe or just working somewhere in my sweatpants, traveling the country and Airbnb hopping from one place to the next month after month. Or even whether it was taking some time off to go travel abroad and see places like Thailand, other places around the world. But before all of this, I was basically just a lost young kid who was just partying. I went to college with no plan and no special major or anything like that. And I had honestly just wanted to put off as much responsibility as possible because I just thought that life was gonna suck anyways, and I wanted to live it up while I was young. So I just partied, drank a ton, and just, goofed around for 4 years. And when it actually came time to start in the real world, when I barely graduated and still had to take extra classes when I got home to finish school, when it came time to get a job, I ended up working jobs that made me realize that, I don't really resonate with the just traditional way that people are working, 40 hours a week, hourly pay, and just doing something that is just work for work's sake instead of something meaningful, instead of something that, can help me build independence and learn real skills and not have to commute in to and from a specific place or be confined to a specific place. I wanted more out of life. I wanted to pursue a greater calling. I had an inner desire to do something, maybe against the grain, or just do something bigger with life than just the traditional thing that everybody else is doing. So this is where I was really drawn to entrepreneurship, and I started to get into that, read books, content, and it was amazing because it seemed like a way that people were doing things that were great. People were having an impact on the world and what looked like meaningful work and doing things like that, and being in control of their schedule and not having to be confined to one place or just work for someone else for the rest of their life. So I was really resonating with that. And I was about 22 when I first started to explore alternate paths to live, right? It was the first time I actually started to question outside of the norm of what everybody was just following, that narrative that everybody's just following. And this was around the time when I really started to live with intention, and I started to start choosing instead of just taking whatever falls on my plate. And instead of just drifting through like a repetitive cycle of just work, escape on the weekends, like I had been doing and had just been kind of coping through that, which I started to see the endless rabbit hole of that. And, why don't I try and build a reality that I don't have to feel like I need to escape from, right? Why do I have to build a reality where I hate Mondays or Tuesdays, right? Like I want to do something that is meaningful and give myself some more freedom, flexibility, and build towards something greater. Now, at first, I wanted to get straight into business because I thought that this was the only vehicle that was going to allow me to achieve what I wanted. And I was around 22 and I was still living in my parents' basement. I even remember I was in a small room in the corner of the basement that was built. It was kind of not even an official room. There was fluorescent lights, and I just was grinding in there every day after day, 5 a.m. wake ups, trying different business models. And I really just wanted to supplement my income with something as fast as possible so that I could quit my job and be independent. That was my biggest goal. That was what I was putting blood, sweat, and tears literally into. And I tried many things, and it was a heavy time. I was grinding, waking up early, doing a full-time job on top of that. And it was hard. It was hard. And I really didn't get to any place where I was making substantial enough money that I was able to supplement my income. And I was kind of jumping from thing to thing, freelance copywriting, beat selling, reselling services, e-com, drop shipping, digital art stores, graphic design work. I was trying so many things to just try and, make some income remotely to supplement my job so that I could go move out of home and be free and start being independent and do something that, I'm more in control of. That was my goal. And I remember after trying many things, even though I made some money in a few things, I kept jumping because nothing felt right. Nothing stuck for the long term. And it was honestly a hopeless place. It was a hopeless feeling where I started to be like, man, like I'm in over my head. Like I don't even know what I'm doing. And I started to get a bit existential, honestly. And I was like, man, like I don't care about anything else. Like I just want to do this. I just want to be independent. I don't want to, be doomed for just a life of being an hourly employee, right? But then I realized something. I started to wonder in my head, like, is there an easier way to supplement my income, have remote freedom, flexibility remotely, where I didn't have to stay in one place and could move around and expand my awareness and travel more? Like, is there an easier way to do that maybe isn't starting a whole business, right? And I started to get these ideas coming my way that were putting me on to that other path potentially, because I ended up realizing how many skills really were involved in a business, right? And I saw firsthand, for example, when I was doing freelance copywriting, I had to get clients, which was sales, outreach, finding people, sourcing companies or sourcing different entrepreneurs I wanted to work with, close them on my contract, negotiate with them, commission structure. And then on top of that, I had to understand how to actually get them results in their industry, know their market, know their competitors, right? So like there's so many things that I was way in over my head for. I ended up working for free for people, and they honestly just sent me a few dollars out of pity because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just in it to escape. I was just in it to make money. And I realized, like, guys, business is a long game. You want to play the long game with business. It's not something you just start and cash out with. If you're in business, you're in a vehicle that you're passionate about, that you want to take for the long term. And so I learned this the hard way, and I realized, like, man, like, I don't even know what I want to do in business yet. I don't know what business I want to start. I don't know what crevices of the universe or the world that I even want to impact people with, right? I felt like I needed to expand my awareness more, get out of my hometown, maybe read books, maybe meet people, network, do things, right? I felt I needed that before feeling like I can just jump straight into business, okay? Now, not everybody's like me. Some people want to just stay in their parents' basement until a business takes off, but this just didn't work for me. So I switched gears. I started to treat business like a long-term game. I never quit it. I kept doing things on the side, and I started to get drawn to social media, personal branding, YouTube, and these are the things that I kind of clicked with, keeping up with my music. And so my goal was simple. After realizing this, I still had this goal. I still had the goal. If I can just make a remote income and get out of my hometown and learn a skill that is actually meaningful to me, that actually can contribute to my long-term vision of business, which I don't know what that is yet at the time. And if I can make 6 figures, 10K a month with it, and it just can allow me to be independent and have more autonomy over my schedule and my lifestyle, like that's what I wanted. And after a lot of trial and error, to be honest, I was still trying to get at copywriting and use that as that tool, but it just didn't vibe with me anymore. So after a lot of trial and error, I ended up finding a skill that actually clicked with me. And that's what I'm going to introduce you to right now. It's a skill that literally helped me after just a month after learning about the specific skill and the specific industry that I'm going to talk about. Helped me make like 5 to 6K per month right off the bat after just 1 month. After just 1 month literally of learning it and positioning myself correctly in this skill, which I'm going to tell you about. I ended up then taking shortly after, in a much quicker time than it takes most people to do this, 6 figures, 10K a month. I ended up getting into the top echelon of the space, and it didn't require me to learn 20 skills and be my own business owner and build an entire business from absolute scratch and structure it. And, it just allowed me to focus on one skill that is actually a foundational skill to entrepreneurship. And it allowed me to just hone in on that and sharpen it and simplify things and still give me space to like figure out things on the side and continue to develop as a person. It was one skill I could just lock in with, and it had some of the quickest turnaround that I've ever seen and found after among anything else out there. And it's the skill that gave me everything I was talking about earlier. It gave me that remote flexibility to work from Airbnbs and do something meaningful, right? Because I saw how it contributed to building me as a person. So that skill was sales, specifically remote sales, which not a lot of people are aware of. So now I want to explain everything about this skill, what remote sales is, industries, literally so that you can just get full clarity on what this is and how it might apply to you, especially if you're someone who's ambitious like me. If you resonate with the path that I'm explaining to you and the hardships that I've literally documented on my YouTube channel about, like, this is really a skill that I believe is for you. If you're ambitious, if you have energy, you're full of energy and drive, and you know you want to build yourself as a person, you know you want to build independence, and maybe you're excited about entrepreneurship one day, or maybe you just want a lucrative career where you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars and you just have the drive to chase that. This is for you, right? Because the biggest problem is just not knowing where to pour that energy in, right? You're a young person, like, you have energy, and if you don't funnel it into the right place, it's just going to scatter everywhere, right? And so you need a vehicle where you can pour your energy in that's going to yield you an ROI, right? Instead of an hourly job where you're just not yielding any ROI because you can't really take it anywhere. It's not transferable, the skills you're learning for the most part. In something like sales, you're learning how to make transactions with people. You're selling remotely, which if you want to be independent and you want to build a remote business, like, you're literally going to learn how to make transactions, get clients, speak to people, get better with people, right? Improve your speaking skills, improve your discipline, time management. Like, you're going to improve in so many ways that your energy is going to be put to some of the best ROI that you can experience, I believe. So what even is this thing? So let's talk about remote sales now. So sales, let's just start there. What is sales, right? Sales is the art of making a transaction of value with somebody, right? Like, the oldest form of this is when one person had a farm and the other person just had a house. Person from the house would walk over to the farm and say, "Wow, I want some milk from your cow. I need some of that. Can you offer it to me?" And the other person would say, "Yeah, what do you have in exchange for that?" Right? Just simple bartering. And then they would come to a conclusion on what exchange makes sense. And he would show the value of the milk, right? And this is an example, but this just shows how simple sales really is. Okay, so it's just making the transaction. Now there's an art to it, because in the modern day, right, there's many different solutions out there. There's many different things that have value that need a person to help someone understand that value and make that transaction of value. There can be, some people can be skeptical or have fear or just, have a problem that needs solving that they're maybe unaware of, and that can really change their life, right? So as a salesperson, you're needed by companies so that you can help facilitate the transactions of value in exchange for solving someone's problem or giving somebody something that they need and want. And I know some people believe, like, why are salespeople even needed, Chad? Like, is this really as lucrative as you're saying? Is there really opportunities out there? Guys, businesses can't run without salespeople. Without sales, there's no cash, right? Because there's no sale that happens. And without cash, there is no business, because business can't be in session unless they have cash to pay the employees, right? To help it run, to buy the things they need to keep it running and going, and expenses and all of that. So salespeople are the first people that are needed, and they're the last people to get fired, because they're keeping the business afloat. They're paying people's salaries. So you're one of the most desired employees. You're needed, right? You're needed. Right? Not everything is just as simple as like buying something on Amazon, right? We're talking about substantially priced services, right? And I'm going to talk about the industries that are good. And a lot of times sales, you're not just an hourly employee, right? You're making commission off of what you sell. This is why it's so good if you have energy and drive and ambition. And if you're selling expensive products, right? People need to speak to a human to facilitate that. They need to trust someone before they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on something. This is why salespeople are needed, and it is never going to go out of business. Like, salespeople will never go out of, what's the word I'm trying to use? It will never get replaced by AI either, because people buy from people who they like and trust. People who they like and trust. You need a human to make these deals that are substantial, right? You need a human to build the trust that's needed to actually get somebody to feel comfortable giving thousands and thousands of dollars in exchange for something. So it's never going to go out of business. It's never going to go out of, there's a word that I can't figure out what I need. It's never going to go out of something, it's never going to go out. And for any business to operate, hire people and do all these things, they need you, okay? This is why there's countless of opportunities out there, okay? And it's also something where you don't need experience to get into, right? Sales is basically just having conversations with people. It's one of the easiest things you can prove and show that you have the skills for and build trust with somebody to hire you to do, right? And so this is why it's so lucrative and the barrier to entry is very low. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's simple, right? It can be difficult. There's, roller coasters sometimes emotionally, sometimes there's highs, there's lows, sometimes everybody's buying, sometimes people are really pinching pennies, in terms of who you're selling to. You have to go through some highs and lows, but it's building you as a person. And especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's building you into a person where you're dealing with where you're becoming a type of person who deals with unpredictabilities of being an entrepreneur or a business owner or someone who makes hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Someone who attracts that type of money is a specific person, and how they operate is specific. And being in sales is going to curate you to operate in a certain way that attracts that income. So there's many different types of businesses in the world, and there's many different types of sales, right? And industries, right? Now, what I'm not talking about here is real estate, or like in-person selling, face-to-face selling, or client dinners, and telemarketing scammers, or people in a warehouse making cold calls to people who've never heard of them before. I'm not talking about any of this stuff, guys. I'm talking about companies that operate remotely, which, let's be real, guys, over like 80% of companies out there are operating remotely to some extent, that need people to sell virtually, remotely, online, right? For them, for their service and product, right? This is why this skill, the better you get at it, you can literally do this from anywhere in the world. There are companies anywhere that will hire you to do this. There are literally unlimited opportunities in the space, because whenever a new company comes into a space of substantiality, the first people they need are salespeople. And there's hundreds of companies each day, if not thousands, coming into structure where they're needing to grow and hire people and hire salespeople, right? So this is never going to not be a profession. Now let's talk about niches, right? So selling remotely, what does that look like? Just like anything has a niche, just like this YouTube channel has a niche where I help people break into sales roles, remote sales roles, and make a lucrative remote income. Sales has a niche. There's different niches. Now, the main two in the remote sales space are high ticket sales and tech sales. Now, I've been in both. I've broken into the top echelon of both of these industries, basically. More notably in tech, where I've worked at one of the most competitive companies out there, HubSpot, and was a top performer multiple times. I've literally generated millions and millions and millions of dollars in MRR and ARR. And in high ticket, I've been a setter, team lead. I've been a closer. I've closed programs from $3,000 to like $8,000 in 1 and 2 call closes. So I know the spaces, and I have a diversified kind of lens on this. And the truth is, you can make amazing money in both, okay? But here's the thing, for a beginner, for someone who's getting into this, for someone who wants to master the skill of sales, the high ticket space for the most part is commission only. Now, if you're someone who is starting from absolute scratch, it's gonna be a lot harder to get the skills and thrive in a commission-only role when you haven't really done this yet. So it's going to be pretty hard for you to make the money that you're seeing online in the space and the flashy videos that are out there. And I'm just trying to be real with you guys and also just give you my current opinion, right? Now, this may change, but from the amount of time that I've spent in remote sales and what I've seen is, in tech, I mean, you're literally gonna make $5,000 to $6,000 a month right off the bat if you can get a good role without even having skills. And these companies have training and structure and funds to run training programs to get you from absolute scratch to literally selling for them and mold you into a good salesperson for them. And they have the funds and structure and managers and team members and tons of people that can help you and mentor you. And so it can be a much better environment for someone who's an absolute beginner. Now in the high ticket space, it's common, and this is, if you do your research, you'll really find this, and this is what I've just seen firsthand. The first few months to 1 to 6 months, like you're going to be making 1K, 2K, maybe 3K a month for the first real period of your time. And it's hard to get on a good offer if you don't already have established skills, or if you don't have the network or things like that. And so on top of that, there's no benefits, no base pay a lot of times. And so it can just be really hard if you're someone who's trying to make their first six figures and just stack cash. And maybe you're trying to do that as quick as possible and go remote as quick as possible and supplement your income as quick as possible, and not put yourself in a situation where you're going to be struggling. This is why I really prescribe tech sales as the best place to start. Okay. Maybe I'm biased because the majority of my time SDR, account executive, has been in tech, but it's just what I've done, and it's the path that I've chosen, and that has treated me very well to getting me to where I am now, where I have amazing skills, amazing foundations, and runway to move into business, and have been working on my passions all alongside that, which are now crystallizing. Topic for another day. So that's my perspective on industries in remote sales, right? In tech, you're gonna have a base pay and commission on top of that. So even if you don't sell anything, you're literally still getting paid, right? So it's a much more safe place to feel. It's a much more predictable place and comfortable place to be. On top of that, having more people to just hold your hand. And again, if you get into the right role, which I help people with, you're gonna be way better off in curating yourself as a salesperson from the start, in my opinion. So let's get into roles now. There's 2 different roles in the remote sales space, and this doesn't matter the industry, okay? There's a setting role, which this can be SDR or appointment setter. It's the same thing, right? Or sometimes is BDR. So SDR is sales representative, sales development representative, and BDR is business development representative. Appointment setter is appointment setter. And then you have account executives or closers. Okay, that's the same role no matter the industry. Basically, what these 2 roles are, the SDR appointment center is going to be the entry level role. Okay, this is where you're going to start out in. This is where most people start out. And what you do is you're the one who's just having conversations with people on the front lines and basically just seeing if it makes sense to speak deeper with a closer about the solution. So you're doing a lot of the front end selling, and you're not, honestly, it's a very easy job because all you have to do is just have a conversation with someone and just see if they check a few boxes to being worth having on a call, where they're going to spend time with one of our account executives or closers, where they walk them through the actual solution and see if it makes sense to move forward and process an investment. Okay, so this can make it easy and not daunting to start out, because you can start as an SDR, learn the product, start learning the foundational core skills of sales, which you're basically selling people on a meeting instead of the whole product, right? And it's a very lucrative skill as well. I mean, I've literally made 6 figures in this alone, in this skill, before promoting to account executive. I've even had outlier 10K plus months in that alone, and fast-tracked the timeline to account executive in like 4 months below the average. So I've literally done this in its highest echelon. And let me tell you, it is one of the coolest careers and skills that you can learn, right? Because it's literally at the core of finding people to make a transaction of value. And it's literally something that is transferable. So that's to give you an idea of the different roles, okay? Now for these roles, you don't need any experience to start. You don't need a college degree. You don't need any training or anything like that. Those are limiting beliefs that people have. And I have other videos where I talk about that. But okay, so then how are we measured? Let's talk about how you're measured in these roles. What does success look like? Where does the money come from, okay? So as an SDR, you're basically like an entrepreneur. Like if you think about this, you're basically becoming an entrepreneur and getting paid to learn one of the foundational skills of entrepreneurship, sales. But you're basically like finding a client, which is a company in the tech space who you're going to give your services to in exchange for cash. And they're going to work out a contract with you. Okay. Usually It's booked meetings. That's what you're measured on. If you book meetings for them, they'll pay you per meeting, usually. So usually you have a base pay, and then they pay you per meeting. So if the more meetings you book, the more money you make, right? And this is why it's so good for someone who's ambitious and has energy. And it's why it's so simple to do this, right? And I think I did the math one time, and usually you can, like, the commission percentage will go up per meeting. Sometimes they pay you on just the meetings alone, regardless of if it closes, right? A lot of times that's the case in tech. And I think I did the math one time, but I started out and like each meeting was like $100 something that I would make. And then as I kind of got more skills and development and promoted into different levels of the SDR role, it went up, the variable went up, the percentage went up. And at one point it was like 200 something per meeting. And so that gives you a lot of confidence in being like, wake up one day and already having a base pay, and then being like, how many meetings do I want to book today? How much money do I want to make today? Or this month, right? Like you have more control over that. You have more incentive, and oftentimes they offer like bonuses and things like this. That if you hit a certain amount, they're gonna give you more money. So like you can literally make in proportion to the energy you want to put into it, right? And on top of that, it's a transferable skill. It's not just an hourly job where you're just entering data, right? You're learning and honing a skill that the better you get at it, the more money you're gonna make. The better you get at it, the better entrepreneur you're going to be, or the better whoever you want to be is, because you know how to speak to people, you know how to sell your ideas, you know how to communicate value of something, whatever it is. That's one of the most important skills you can learn on the planet. Okay, so let's talk about timeline now. What does the timeline actually look like? So how much can you make? Like how much can you actually make in this as a career or a launch pad into entrepreneurship, which is what I talk about as well. The income potential for this, usually year one, you're going to be making from 70K all the way up to like 90K, in some cases 100K, right? Like me, like I was able to position myself in some of the big leagues where it was a much easier place to make that kind of money. It can be like a year to a year and a half in the SDR role is like the average amount of time people stay in that role, and that's how much that you can make. In years 1.5 to like 2 is when people usually promote into account executive, where usually right off the bat, you're making 100K, usually 120K a year, all the way up to like 200K or plus, right? And it takes a little bit of time to scale up to like the 200K point. But in literally just a year and a half to 2 years, you could be making account executive money. You could be promoted into account executive and making that kind of money. And if we look at this in comparison to some other of the most top careers that like people think, doctor, like look at this on screen, like years 1 to 4, you're undergrad where you're in college. Years 5 to 8, you got to go to med school. Years 9 to 15, you're doing like residency program, and I think you're getting paid, but I'm not even sure. But like almost 15 years, guys, of education, and not to mention the amount of debt that you'll accrue through this that you'll have to pay back over the years. But I mean, yeah, you can make a lucrative income with this as well. 200K, 350K, I think some people more. But I mean, that's a lot of school education time to just make money that is fairly similar to what you can make in just a couple of years in a tech role. Let's look at lawyer, okay? 1 to 4 years in undergrad. I mean, after that, you go to law school for like another 3 years. Years 7 plus, you're making like 80K to 200K, right? And that's going to take a lot of time. And not to mention how much debt you'd accrue. I mean, you'd probably have a few $100,000 in debt if you're going something like this. So if we think about careers and trajectory in terms of like, if you're someone who's entrepreneurial, you're getting skills, and also you don't have to go to school and get in debt to do something like this either. Like this is a no-brainer for me. If I were to go back to my younger self, I probably wouldn't have gone to college, even though yes, I'm grateful for some of the experiences and life experience and learnings. But I got spat out with like 50 grand in debt, and I didn't even need it to go the direction that I'm going now with sales and entrepreneurship. And if we think about it in that lens, it's almost just a no-brainer. You see what I mean? It's like literally, but I'm grateful for it because now I'm in a place where I can relate to you guys more. I think a lot of people are super lost in terms of career and direction. And so now it gives me the space to actually tell you guys my story and that I've gone through those struggles, right? But anyways, let's talk about the remote flexibility now. Okay, this is something a lot of people are curious about. So for most tech roles, you can work completely from home. Okay, they don't care where you are in the country. All right, for most tech roles. For some tech roles, they don't care where you are in the world as long as you can align with their timeline. Now, the most common and the most lucrative tech roles, they're going to want you to stay in the country at least, but they give you like up to 90 days where you can go abroad and live, and you could also travel throughout the year as much as you want as long as you're hitting your numbers, right? So you can plan for trips and just be like, all right, I'm going to hit my number, take this time. And you can also do this from anywhere as well. So like I was Airbnb hopping. It didn't matter where I was, right? I even went in different countries and did that. So like this is one of the most free roles that you can do with the amount of lucrativity that's attached to it, right? Now, whether it's geographical freedom you want, or it's just getting a lucrative tech company that's well known that may, for tax reasons, be easier if you stay in the country and to pay you lucratively. Regardless of all of that, this is one of the most freedom skills that you can have. And whatever your dreams are, if living abroad is your dream, or if you just want to make 6 figures, 10K a month as quick as possible, learning and honing this skill will give you access to both, right? So this is what I help people with in terms of learning how to sell yourself. This is going to give you the power to, at any point, at any time, be able to find the company that you want to work for, negotiate where you want to be and the flexibility you want, or just find ones that offer that already. This skill is going to allow you to do that, right? But again, to start, make it simple for yourself. Get a role in your country, learn the skills, still be remote, move out of your hometown, travel, Airbnb hop, do whatever you want to do, but get the skills, because once you have skills, you have leverage. And once you have leverage, the world is literally your oyster, okay? So we're covering a lot in this video, and honestly, I love videos like this because I'm giving you guys some of the high level stuff that can be important to understand why sales, right? Because the truth is, nobody can get into this industry unless they aren't first sold on it themselves. Okay, read Brandon Borneson's book, Break Into Tech Sales. He's the founder of Seamless AI. Love that book. I mean, he talks about this where you got to sell yourself first on sales. If you're not sold enough on sales and you just want to get into it just to get into it, and you think it's just all lollipops and rainbows, it's not going to work. You got to have the drive. You got to sell yourself first. You close yourself, and then you close yourself for the employer, and then they train you to be a kick-ass seller, okay? That's the trajectory. Now, I know you're not someone who wants to be an employee forever, or maybe you are, and that's okay. This is one of the most lucrative careers out there, like I've just talked about. But let me share with you why this is one of the best moves you can make right now, especially if you're lost after school like I was, and you have no clue what you want to do with life, but you know that you don't want to just work something that isn't meaningful, and that just trading your time for an hourly pay, which gives you no motivation to like put more effort in. I think that just hourly jobs just make you lose purpose. I think if you're not sharpening and honing something, like if you're like me, like you're not really getting fulfillment, right? Because humans get fulfilled by progression, by progressing towards something, by improving and developing, right? So this is why this is such a fun and engaging career, right? So one of the biggest reasons this is so cool is you can get paid to learn. Now, a lot of people, when you're starting a business, you pay to learn, right? But in this, you get into this, you're getting paid for them to develop you into a salesperson, which is a transferable skill that you take, right? So it's like a school for people who are trying to be an entrepreneur, or a school for someone who wants to grow into a person, right? You can learn from other people, top performers, and you're just developing and honing a skill day by day. So you're getting paid to learn something instead of you would have to pay to learn the sales component if you're starting a business, right? So it's different. And now, I'm not saying you shouldn't pay for like mentorship and things to like coaching. Like honestly, I did. I invested in recruiters, sales managers, mentorships on sales and career coaching before getting into some of the best company, in the space, because I wanted to make sure that I positioned myself right? So I think that's fine, but you get the point. You're going to get paid from there to learn. You're getting paid to hone in your skill set, right? For years, as long as you stay there. It's also one of the quickest ways to build cash flow and capital that I've seen, right? Especially tech. Like you get in off the bat, you're going to be making 5 to 6K, and you can very quickly, within a year, potentially for a lot of people, can scale it to 90K a year, 6 figures, sometimes more, outlier months with more. I mean, that's a lot of capital, right? To do with what you want, to invest further into your business, to invest in mentors, to invest in education for entrepreneurship, which doesn't have a college. And so investing in mentorship and help from other people and networking with other people is one of the best ways that you can succeed. And if you're just in your parents' basement trying to like make something work with no capital, like that's going to be a harder road, in my opinion. Okay. I've done it. I've tried it. It didn't work for me. I needed something that I could build a safety net, build capital that I could use to strategically plan my life. And honestly, I tell people like take sales as long as needed until you feel comfortable moving into business, or take it as long as you want until you have the money that you need to do what you want in life, or even plan an early retirement abroad or something like that, right? Like this is one of the most lucrative skills that you can hone in and use it as a tool, and you can always fall back on it as well. Like once you learn the skills of how to sell yourself, which is the biggest thing that I help people with here, is once you have that, you can sell yourself for anywhere, anyone, anytime. So if things fail in your ventures and you're testing things out and experimenting, which you should be doing in your 20s, by the way, your 20s are for taking risks, failing, investing in this, trying this. Like I've invested countless of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars into my education. I wouldn't be where I am now in not college. I'm not talking aside from that, in mentors. I would not be where I am now doing the things that I'm doing now with the level of development I have now if I haven't invested in mentorship and had capital to move things around and do what I want to do in life. You also learn so many other skills. There's time management, being efficient, like learning how to be disciplined and show up and again, deal with the unpredictabilities of running your own business one day. You also get to see business from the inside, how it works, and you develop as a person, you develop people skills, and you're basically learning business from within. Okay, so how long does this take to get into? So a realistic timeline for this is anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to like 2 to 3 months. Okay, this is a realistic timeline for someone who, has some level of intention and figure it out factor. Okay, now I've helped people do this in a matter of weeks. I've helped people do this in a little bit longer as well. It depends on where you're at, the level of preparation that you need, the level of from scratch that you're starting at, which by the way, if you're starting from absolute scratch and just learning about this thing, this is absolutely possible for you, right? But it depends on where you are, how long it's going to take. Right? But even just a few months, a couple months to a few months is a very short period of time to completely change your life and start making like 5 to 6 grand from the start per month. You don't need experience. You don't need prior experience. This is a limiting belief. You don't need a degree. I've helped people who are literally like 19, fresh out of high school, present themselves and get into a very desirable tech role, making $70K a year with tons of potential to move up to 80, 90, 100K. Right? I've literally helped people do this, and I've done it myself, and I've been in mentorship groups with people right beside me, literally from scratch, some like people who have broken into the top tech companies out there at literally 19 years old with no college degree or anything like that. Okay. So it's just a matter of believing in yourself and doing the right prep work. Okay, and this is what I help people with in my one-on-one mentorship, which I'm going to talk about. But if you want to check that out right now, click the first link in the description. It's going to take you to book a call with me where we can see if that makes sense. But this is the simplest path that I found. This is the simplest path. Now, it's not easy because I'm real with you guys. It's going to take some grit. It's going to take a learning curve. It's going to take getting over some fear of speaking to strangers over the phone in your sweatpants, which is not like they can't physically touch you. Nothing bad can happen, guys, okay? But it's going to take a little bit of uncomfortability. There's going to be a little discomfort, a little fire that you have to go through to get to the golden carrot, right? If it was completely just click, 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 and then chill out all day, like everybody would be doing it. It's not, okay? You need to have some level of drive, okay? But it's the simplest path. It's one skill that you focus, not 20, okay? So I feel that's all that needs to be said in this video in terms of introducing you to this vehicle. Obviously, I'm going to be making more videos on this, but I want to tell you a little bit about how I help people because I'll be honest, the amount of limiting beliefs and fear that I had when I was approaching this industry and learned about it, I would have never gotten to where I had gotten, where I was a top performer at one of the most competitive companies out there. I've ranked #1 and top 5 in hundreds of people. I would not be there if I didn't invest in myself and invest in mentorship, whether it's with somebody else or whether it's with me. just investing in yourself can help you borrow from the confidence of people who have already done the thing. They've already been there. They've gone through the trials and tribulations. I've interviewed and successfully interviewed and helped people interview for SDR roles, account executive roles, right? So I have a massive lay of the land when it comes to interviewing, preparing, and knowing how to stand out among hundreds and hundreds of applicants. I've helped many people do this. Again, I don't care if you're 18, I don't care if you're 29, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you don't have a college degree. I don't care if you're just out of high school and don't even have any work experience. You can do this with the right prep work, the right strategy and knowledge. This can be something that is very feasible for you. And I give a lot of it away out for free on my channel. I give all of it out for free on my channel, but there can be a different layer of fast tracking, a different layer of development that can happen if you undergo mentorship. And so that's why I want to open the door to you if you're watching this. If you feel like you're ambitious and you want more out of life and you resonate with sales, maybe you're stuck in a painful job that's hourly in an office and you want to get out, or maybe you're just stuck in your parents' house and you just want to expand your remote freedom and make lucrative income while doing that. This is where I'm helping people in my one-on-one mentorship, okay? So the first link in the description is where you can book a call with me for free and just see if it makes sense, right? I'm basically gonna understand your situation. If it makes sense from there, I'll walk you through what it looks like to work with me, what we're gonna be doing, the milestones we're gonna be hitting, and I'll let you know if it isn't a fit, and that's totally fine as well, right? But a lot of people just get value out of speaking with me alone, and if it doesn't work out, totally fine. We can go our separate ways and no hard feelings there either. So check that out in the first link in the description. I don't work with everybody and I only have so much bandwidth, right? So if you see that there's slots available to book with me, that means that I'm currently taking on clients. Sometimes I close it off when I want to lock in with the clients that I have. Sometimes I reopen it, right? So if you're really interested in this or if you're serious about this and you see a call there, don't hesitate to book that availability, okay? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed making it. I'll see you in another one. I'm out for now. Take care.